So all these dollars the Fed created and sent out on the swap lines and bought foreign currency, well, they're down on that. Well, where's the record of that? Where's that on their books?
Yeah, exactly. And now you've got Biden calling on Congress to pass a federal gas tax holiday, and he's talked about giving out gas cards. And isn't that inflationary, Ian? Because doesn't the money have to come from somewhere to pay for subsidies like that?
Welcome to Gold Silver Pros, where you'll learn the ins and outs of the gold and silver markets. Searching for the best precious metals deal? Our affiliates are of the utmost trust, quality, and highest customer service in the industry. Shop with our trusted partner, 𝙂𝙍𝙊𝙍. Access special deals on silver, gold, and platinum through our website or call 307-264-9441.
Hey everybody, it's Rob Kientz at goldsilverpros.com, and guess what? I have one of my best friends in the business on with me to talk about the goofy Fed and what's going on there with inflation and their complete ineptitude. It is Ian Everard from 𝙂𝙍𝙊𝙍. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm good, thanks, Rob. And yourself?
Doing very well. It is super hot in Texas. We did have reports of some brownouts kind of close to me, short term, but not the length of brownouts that we had last year. So I guess we're doing okay from an energy grid perspective. We'll see what happens. I'm just sitting here in my comfortably air-conditioned apartment, not going anywhere, trying to stay out of the heat. And I hear, Ian, that you've had quite a bit of heat this week as well.
Yeah, we got into the 80s, Rob.
In the 80s. Oh, my goodness. You breaking out the bathing suit and going down to the swimming hole?
Still had a ground frost yesterday morning.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, it suits me. Growing up in the UK, never getting too hot, really. Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the Fed. They're the easiest target to talk about, of course, on a gold silver channel. But they just keep giving so much gold that we have to talk about. So the latest goofiness is Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said Wednesday to Congress that the Fed is strongly committed to do it with its policy tools, and also notes recession as a possibility. Okay, now first of all, do these morons think that we're not smart enough to understand that we're already in a recession? And yes, we know recession's a possibility because, gee, I don't know, we're the people that, we're not the academic types and the government types. They're completely divorced from the economy. We're on the front line, so we see it in prices. You run a business like I do, and you do, Ian. You see it in your input costs. Who's the Fed trying to fool by saying, "Oh, there's only a possibility"?
Anybody who'll listen, I guess. So I've got a quote here from Lawrence Reed. He's president of the Foundation for Economic Education. And so I'll just read it out because it's probably got a bit more weight than me just doing some Fed president bashing. Get rid of the Fed. I can't think of another institution in American history over the last 130 years that has more fully and disastrously failed its various missions. We were told when it was created that it would iron out the business cycle, and yet it gave us a Great Depression and 8 or 9 recessions with its erratic monetary policy. We've been told that it would adjust the right amount of currency to protect the integrity of the dollar. Well, clearly, it's not doing that because a dollar is worth less than a nickel of its 1913 value, and going down now at probably double-digit rates. We were told it would help promote full employment. So yeah, several things in there. Well, when it was created, it wasn't. It created itself, didn't it? I mean, it was created in secret on Jekyll Island, Christmas, when Congress were half asleep or half drunk, and they squeezed it through, making it look like it would be regulation on the banks. That was how it was sold. And so its missions, it's blatantly failed at. Iron out the business cycle. I'm pretty convinced that they deliberately like the volatility because that's when their owners profit. You look at JP Morgan and Citi, they're estimating 30% rise in profits from all the trading from people desperate selling bonds and stocks. And same happened last year in the dip. A huge amount of trading on the way down, a huge amount of trading on the way up. They love the volatility. And that's any trader.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you know what the volatility, because you're causing it, and you know the time lags, you know it's 18 months to 2 years from when you start printing funny money, but it starts to filter through to the real life. You can front run every position practically with a 100% certainty of being on the winning side.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren was questioning Powell, and here's what she said. She warned Powell that continued rate hikes could tip this economy into recession without stopping inflation. This is as reported on CNBC. And a quote from her, "You know what's worse than high inflation, low unemployment is high inflation and a recession when it means people out of work. And I hope you'll reconsider that before you drive the economy off a cliff," she said. So apparently Elizabeth likes the accommodative monetary policy, probably because that's one of the reasons all of these Congress critters get elected, is when you have a good economy, especially if you're Elizabeth Warren or one of these others that seems to be perpetually in office. That system supports your rule, and they don't want that system to crash. Do you think, that's me being cynical, Ian, do you think Elizabeth Warren and all the other swamp rats in Congress and in the established, halls of government, all of these other agencies that exist, do you think that they actually care about the American people at all? Am I being way too cynical? Or do you think they just care about their own longevity? Most of us in America don't get.
Well, let's be kind and presume some of them do care. Well, if they do care, they're completely, I would say they're criminally negligent in their ignorance. And if they don't care, they're criminal. So either way, they're acting in a way that's detrimental. So if they don't understand what inflation is, how can anybody be a government official if they don't actually understand that we've had the inflation? Now we've got the consequences.
Yep.
The inflation was the abnormal creation of the money supply, increasing it at a rate. I've heard different figures, 40% to 70% of all the dollars ever created were created in the last 2 years. And that's what we know about. We know they have two sets of books. We know all big corporations have two sets of books. They have all these funny foreign exchange positive swap lines where they print up, digitally create more dollars, and they send them to, I think it's over 14 countries are on the gravy chain now. And then we get their duff currencies back. Well, that's not working out very well, is it? With the dollar strengthening, the 𝙎𝙀𝙊𝙍 going up. So all these dollars the Fed created and sent out on the swap lines and bought foreign currency. Well, they're down on that. Where's the record of that? Where's that on their books?
Yeah, exactly. And now you've got Biden calling on Congress to pass a federal gas tax holiday, and he's talked about giving out gas cards. And isn't that inflationary, Ian? Because doesn't the money have to come from somewhere to pay for subsidies like that? And it's coming out of the pockets of Americans, I assume, in some sort of tax or future debt payment. These aren't free, right? So is Biden actually helping things? I know he's trying to temporarily help people, but in the long term, does that help things, giving away freebies like that instead of addressing the core issue?
No, absolutely not. But thankfully, I mean, although I would have liked a $400 debit card from the government, I would have spent it and filled up my F350 twice, maybe.
Yeah, it's true.
They can't do that because there's not enough chips to make the cards. So, seriously, they can't get enough chips to make the cards to do that. So they scrapped that idea. But no, it's crazy because so you do that by devaluing the currency, by creating more currency.
Some people call it.
So you create a bigger problem. It's a never-ending vortex of doom, as 𝙎𝙁𝙇 would say, isn't it? It's a doom vortex. We either bite the bullet now and go into a horrific negative deflationary period, which would be horrific, or we carry on this inflationary path, and then we have that deflationary horrific. So it's really, really nasty now, or really, really bad now, and then really, really nasty. It's like, so by delaying it, it's going to be way, way worse, because we've got to face the evaporation, the destruction of perceived wealth. One of the best ways I described it was the real estate guys at New Orleans, and they gave the example. Say you live in a close of 30 houses, and everybody agrees they're worth $1 million each house.
Mm-hmm.
Someone comes along and buys one of the houses for $2 million. Now everybody in that close thinks their house is worth $2 million, but it isn't. So now 29 people think their wealth has grown by $1 million. Well, it hasn't. Until you turn it into primary wealth, which is what your channel is all about, mainly, until you turn it in, and the most convenient way of storing wealth in a physical is gold and silver. I mean, unless you can buy farmland and forestry and water rights and income-producing real estate, you're stuck in the dollar system with your wealth is just being deliberately destroyed.
Yeah, and that's true both of real estate and stocks. Whenever prices go up, it's based on, in stock market, it's about 1% of stocks trading on a daily basis determines the price for all stocks, meaning when that price is determined, only 1% of shares traded additional value for the other 99%. They were just all marked to the same thing based upon this 1% of trade. Somebody else calls it. But same thing with real estate. If you own a house and, you know, let's say you've got 50,000 people and you have, I don't know, 5 a month, but that sets the whole market. Where does that wealth come from, Ian? Or did that money actually go into the house? Did that money go into the person holding all those stocks? Did all that money change hands? Fusion of wealth based upon a small amount of trades, which, by the way, can be manipulated via all these derivative markets. Because think about it. You've got stocks and real estate, all the prices are all set by the derivative markets. We're not trading physical stock certificates. Okay, we're not physically handing over pieces of a company when we do this. Same thing with mortgages. You have these derivative markets that determine interest rates, which determines what your house is worth, which determines what it'll sell for and somebody will buy it for. You know, these are all like ethereal concepts. But I wanted to point out there's been less dollars created physically than the valuations of any of these markets, than of the valuations of the real estate market, of the stock market, of the bonds. So all of this garbage is basically been bid up by a fraction of the amount of money actually would need to confer real value. And so when you have the crash, that's why it gets nasty. And that's why when you had the stock crash this year, NASDAQ being down almost a third or so, a third of the money that went into NASDAQ didn't just disappear. Nobody went out and burned wheelbarrows of cash. You know, these NASDAQ companies didn't, you know, do that. It's that the value was never there in the first place. And it's all a big con game, right? So it's a confidence game. It's your confidence in the market. It's not actual valuation in supporting all these markets. It's not actually some physical values like gold or even fiat dollars, you know, that are supporting these valuations. It never does. And so what you're getting now is you're just getting people realizing, well, maybe we're not doing so hot and everybody sells and it crashes. But again, it's all ethereal. It's not actual dollar bills being exchanged.
And one of the best visual descriptions of it is Exter's pyramid. If anyone listening has not looked at Exter's pyramid, look it up. John Exter, he was a brilliant guy, and he did work for the Fed for a while, but he was sought around the world for his advice on finance and banking. And he
advised Paul Volcker during the crisis in 79, 80.
And at the top of that is derivatives, which, and so everything is a claim eventually on primary wealth. And primary wealth is what you can dig out of the ground, or what you can grow, and what you can harvest. And everything else is a claim eventually upon that. And Rafi Farber often describes that the system will sort of fall in on itself, and there's be a desperate scrabble to get something real. And, you know, for the few people that do manage to do it, they'll do very well. But the illusion, and as you were saying earlier, Rob, the The con trick is, whilst they're kidding people they're wealthy, there's the financial elite, whoever they are, and we don't know who they are, they've been stealing the real wealth. They've been using inflated value.
You mentioned Exter's pyramid, and I wanted to pull up a version of Exter's pyramid. It happened in the first couple of links off of Google when I type in Exter's pyramid is my article on Seeking Alpha that I wrote in 2020 called Reimagining Exter's Pyramid in Today's Panic Market. And seriously, this is one of the first ones. It was a popular article. Here's the original version of Exter's pyramid, where on the bottom you see gold, silver, then you've got your base money, which is your fiat, your bank money, which is the electronic money essentially traded between banks. You've got bonds, securitized debt, private businesses, and other derivatives. I redid it and came up with something more like this, because I think we undervalue, because something that people never point out, and the government doesn't want you to know, and employers don't want you to know, is that you as the individual have the greatest ability to increase your wealth by educating yourself, by being entrepreneurial, by starting a business, by providing value to the economy. And you notice how that's not in the original Exter's pyramid. We don't have the individual there because this is developed by a commercial banker in the Keynesian system, where they don't care about the individual. And they don't want people to know their value. They want people to buy all this other crap. And so then there are other things in here. And mine's a little bit more detailed. We talk about non-monetary commodities have value, like oil and gas and hogs and stuff like that. Commercial real estate and private businesses have value because they drive revenues. And then I put paper money after that, because I would say that a business that drives revenue is worth more than paper money, especially in a recession. You got things, right? You got things like bonds and treasuries, your S and international stocks and other derivatives. So I don't know. I thought, I reimagined his pyramid because I agree with you on that. We were talking about his pyramid, but I think the pyramid that they put out was a Keynesian economist. As much as I like John Exter, he's a Keynesian economist. His view top down as a central planner on the economy. But I wanted to point out that you really have control of your own situation, and Exter's pyramid doesn't really illuminate that for us.
Yeah, and another visualization is good if you've ever messed around with an hour timer, a sand glass. Did you ever mess around with one of those as a kid, watching the sand fall through? So we have so much time, and only so much sand is going to get through to the other side and remain as wealth, as purchasing power. And however you shook that thing, you couldn't make the sand go through. You couldn't shorten the hour time, if it was an hour one or a 6-minute egg time, whatever it was. And this is what's happening now. And the people who are buying precious metals have got through to the other side, and their purchasing power not only will be preserved, it will be enhanced. And everything that doesn't get through never really existed in the first place.
It doesn't. It's all ethereal. And that's the hardest thing for people to understand. I remember when I originally went for my bachelor's, I was an accounting student. I changed to technology afterwards. That was my preference. But I remember taking accounting classes. I have a business degree, right? So every business degree student takes accounting, marketing, finance, all that good stuff. Well, in accounting class, they were talking and they were talking about accounting concepts. And I remember going through accounting saying, and this is literally my thought, I didn't say it to my classmates, this is absolute bullshit. Because first of all, when you look at the structure of how companies are run, the board of directors determine things. And that allows you to confer a lot of power over a lot of different corporations, because boards of directors share positions, and they're chosen based upon what? Their connections with what? Other companies, other industries. And so effectively a pyramid control scheme. And the second thing is you have all these accounting concepts around estimating value of the company that overinflate what the company's worth. And even I think, and even my accounting professors admitted this, take huge leaps of faith with their ability to estimate what value a corporation is bringing. And so the corporates themselves, and this is why when you look at stocks, you have to be extremely careful. Even if you go through all the 10Ks and the quarterly statements and the cash flow statement, all that, you really don't know as a going concern how valuable that company is. And therefore, any stock valuation you put on it, no matter how conservative you are in your math and breaking out your pen. And so I would say that nobody really knows what the stock market's actually worth. And again, that goes to fun on how to really evaluate these companies. And so what we use is we're taught to use all these ratios and blah, 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 and use all these ethereal concepts. You put one number over here and one number over here. And because it compares to other companies, we think it's worth this, and you slap some number on it. It's all garbage, Ian. And I learned this in business school. It's all freaking garbage. It's all a game. The entire thing is a game to run companies a certain way based upon a small managing elite at the top, to basically cook the books however the hell you want, to get the accounts to sign off on it. So you have somebody with some license given by the government saying, this is the value of your company. And it's all garbage, Ian. It's all garbage. And when you're talking about primary wealth, corporations are not primary wealth. They're a derivative of a derivative. And the stocks are a derivative of that, the derivative corporation. And it's all garbage. It's all garbage.
And I would say it gets even worse than that now, Rob, because you look, I think I'm right in saying that BlackRock and Vanguard control $30 trillion of companies and corporations.
Oh, there's no risk on that whatsoever. No, not an issue.
We have a layer on top, and we have, is it Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock? I can't remember.
Whoever.
It's like,
he rides around in a black helicopter and has lots of security, and probably is worth more than most of the people in the state of Texas put together. I'm sure.
And talking about Texas, was it 40% of private homes purchased last year were purchased by BlackRock, Vanguard, and similar entities? 40%. You know, that's manipulation of markets, and then you got the plunge protection team who had till recently been propping up the stock market just by buying the 5 big FANG shares, haven't they? Literally, they can manipulate the algorithms, move it in a way that all of the computer trading then copies, which is the film that Julian's making, isn't it? The Money Game. They're talking about how fake everything is, and when you get machines.
Yeah, when that movie comes out, hopefully it's going to come out next year. They're in post-production now. All the scenes have been shot. And one of the reasons I supported the movie by putting my money into it is we've got to tell the story in a way that the average person can understand. And I love all the people that come to Gold, Silver Pros, but they're some of the smartest people on the internet. The average person doesn't understand the concepts we're talking about. They don't get them. For whatever reason, all the propaganda, in the way in which you work as an employee of a large organization, you don't understand all the moving parts, and you're not taught how money really works. People don't understand this. That's why most people don't. And it's why they get harmed by it. They buy into this system that's predatory from the beginning. It's predatory because the moneyed interests set it up in the law books to benefit them. We know this. And to some degree, that does help society because they provide shelter services. They provide jobs and income. But they also can manipulate the levers of society and also the politicians because they make all the contributions, right? They have influence there. And it's just a big, messy system. And it's not capitalism. And when people complain about capitalism today, I just point out, this isn't capitalism. There's nothing capitalist in the original sense of the word about what we're doing. It's more corporate socialism, I would say. It's a form of socialism in the corporate sector. And boy, my previous bosses in corporate America are going to like me for saying that. But it's really true what it is. It's corporate socialism.
Well, it's socialized losses and privatized gains.
Yes, exactly.
All the time.
Transfer the gains to the individuals, socialize the losses through what? The bond market, the stock market, everything.
Yeah.
All of that goes under the protective umbrella of the corporation, which is very hard to pierce that veil. We've taught in business school. But guess who's making all the money? The people that run it. They take their money out in terms of benefits, stock, compensation, all that kind of stuff, lifestyle the company provides them, company car, that kind of thing. And they take it out. And if the company goes kaboom, this is something we also learned in business school. They actually had a term for it. This is the mid-90s. It's called a golden parachute.
Yep.
So the golden parachute is a way to make sure you get your money after you screw all the employees, all the shareholders, and all the consumers of your product.
Yeah.
And those are protected by law. There's established court precedent. You cannot you know, and unless you violated a company rule, you're going to get your golden parachute.
Yeah. And really, the whole banking system, the banks are going to get there with the bail-in laws that were passed in 2012, I think, worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
They were preparing for this time 10 years ago. They knew this
the
was going to
bail-in laws are a way to steal money out of people's bank accounts to pay off, you know, the guys that ran the economy into the ground and caused the situation in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the biggest scam ever run in history, and I'm just amazed that how many people still don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we say it's complicated. I don't think it is really complicated. I mean, anybody can read this book. Have you read that
Fiat
book?
Money, Inflation in France. Yes.
So,
I've had that book recommended to me by several people. It's a really good, I haven't read it, but I'm told it's a really good.
Yeah. So it was authored by Andrew Dickinson White. He was a co-founder of Cornell University 100 years ago to give lectures. So basically he turned a lecture series into a short book. You can read it. I'm a slow reader. It took me about 2 hours to read it. And it tells us how France did this inflationary destruction process twice in a period of 70 years.
Yeah.
Twice. And France has never recovered. France should be as powerful, if not more powerful than Germany. You know, generally incredibly smart, incredibly...